All right. Hello and welcome to We Gotta Talk, Damn It, a podcast where common sense and logic rule. I am your host, Freddy Mak, and that's Freddy with a Y and Mac, M-A-K. Today's episode, calling Bill Maher out one more time. This podcast is about common sense and logic, right? So, and obviously you need facts to back stuff up, right? But let's face it. I'm going to give you an example of where I want to go with this podcast, right? I mean, facts are super important, but it seems like nowadays we don't know what a fact is and it isn't, right? I mean, let's face it, Donald Trump has set up the media and everybody to be false except for his narrative. That was the genius of Donald Trump, and 75 million people bought it. So what is factual? What is not factual? So what I want to do is say, how about a little common sense, right? So, I mean, for example, we know that driving 100 miles an hour down a residential road is dangerous. It can cause destruction, accidents, deaths, etc. I don't need to see facts to know that. Common sense will rule on that, correct? So that's where I want to go with this. And, the narrative here when it comes to, what is true, what is not true, alternative facts and stuff like that. Yes, it's still important to back up. Okay. So for example, my last podcast that I did, everything that I said was absolutely factual, even though it was, you can deduce it by using some common sense. Now, someone did call me out and say that when I did my last podcast on Bill Maher, that United States is not the only country, okay, that considers Hamas a terrorist organization. Fair enough, right? There are other, Japan, Canada. So there are some other entities that consider Hamas a terrorist organization. And we're going to talk on another podcast with a guest that's coming on why Hamas is considered a terrorist organization and actually why they are not a terrorist organization. So again, people, when they hear things, whether it's on the left or right or in the middle, automatically assume that it's true without really using common sense or even just questioning it, right? So someone said, oh, you listen to them, you're going to hear one thing, that's correct. You're correct. Now, what do you think? Do your homework, cross-reference it. Go to Google, go to Wikipedia, right? Somebody called me out at Fred, it's on Wikipedia. I said, well, okay, good call. You're right. You're 100% correct. You are absolutely right on that. Okay. And he also made a really super great point when I said Palestine was called Palestine, because everyone says, no, Palestine is not, it was never a country. It was never called Palestine, never. All you got to do is open up the Bibles back in the late 1800s and you will see it said modern day Palestine on there. It never said Israel. It was never called Israel until 1947, or is that when the resolution and then official in 1948? So whichever. So, okay, that's when it came about. That's when Israel was first a country, okay, considered a country, okay? So he said that you can't change the writings back then, right? Especially when they cross-reference and agree, right? It wasn't like one Bible said Israel and the other Bible said Palestine. No, they all said Palestine on it, modern day Palestine on it, right? So to sit there, so that's just like, like the media, the phones and the computers, everything, it can change, right? It can boom, 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 change. For example, Fox News one week said, oh, this thing is a hoax, COVID is a hoax, and everyone's flying and hugging and kissing, it's no big deal, and blah, 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 blah. It's just the flu, it's just another virus, blah. And then next week, we've always taken the coronavirus seriously. You see how that changes? People have short memories, right? They forget things. They can't remember what the media said last week. And this is the problem. People don't use their brain, a little common sense. I don't believe everything I hear, right? And if I do, Well, I'm going to try to logically work this out in my brain and do some homework. Okay, do some homework. I don't think I'm always right. I mean, I like when people call me out, critique me, say, Fred, I understand what you're saying, but your logic is not panning out. Call me out. Let's see. Let's see. You're not going to be able to do it that often. Because a lot of this, the Palestinian and the Israeli conflict or war, I like to call it a genocide or apartheid. It doesn't take a genius to figure out that there's an imbalance here. And the Israeli government, I've said this before, is constantly badgering, making the life of the Palestinian people just almost impossible to live. Okay? So when they say war, I get confused by that. Like, where are the Palestinian tanks? Where are their weaponry, their aircraft? Yes, Hamas is blowing off weapons, and the media makes it sound like they just randomly did it. Therefore, they're a terrorist organization, right? Do your homework. I could show you video. I won't post videos of what the Israelis do with the Palestinians because because I think people will sit there and say, "Oh, Fred, you're picking your own narrative, and I don't know if this is all." Go do it yourself. You don't need me. You don't need me to do that. You don't need me. So Bill Maher last week said you can't learn, talking to the younger kids, you can't learn about history from Instagram. Well, I'm about to show you something, okay, that puts Bill Maher in his place. And it actually backs up just about everything that I said on my last episode, except I was using some common sense, right? Just some basic common freaking sense. Now, this guy does say something in there that I do have to do some more investigating, okay? Because he said, yes, it wasn't known as a independent state. So I'm not sure if that means that the English were in control of it. I'm not sure where he was getting. He didn't elaborate, and I didn't investigate that further. And I probably will when I bring on one of my guests who is very well read on the Palestinian Israeli conflict, and I do that in quotes. So very, very, very well educated when it comes to that. So. Yeah, but clearly in the Bible, I have family who are Palestinians. They got run out of their house. They had their houses destroyed, or they were kicked out and said, "This is no longer your land; it's rightfully ours." Whether it was biblically, whether I can't speak, whether they think it's because of the Bible said so. Or they think that they were the chosen ones, or perhaps a sense of entitlement because of the atrocities that happened to them in World War II. And it was horrible. I mean, anyone that denies the Holocaust is, they got brain damage. Only white supremacists would deny that ever happened. Okay, but please note that the numbers of people that died in World War II well exceed the amount of Jewish people that got exterminated, which is just, and I'm not making light of it. I'm really not. It's just, I see these things, and it brings chills that another human being can be so just the monsters, right? Just absolute monsters. But make no mistake about it. The estimates are as much as 160 plus. Some estimates are over 200 million people that actually died in World War II. But the Holocaust existed, and if anybody thinks that it didn't, well, they're morons. But the point is, does that give them a sense of entitlement to take somebody else's land away? Right? They were oppressed. Does that give them the right to be the oppressors now? So, but anyway, I kind of digressed a little bit when it came to that guy talking about whether or not Palestine was actually considered, by the UN or whoever by that time. Was it really considered a legitimate state or not? I guess that can be up for discussion. Or was it being ruled by, the English and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't know. I'm not a history buff, but again, does that matter? Does that what it was called, whether it was legit or not, does it justify what has happened to the Palestinian people? And common sense says no. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So, what I'm going to do here, but first, before I get into the clip, okay, because I want to get into this clip, and it's 20 lies that Bill Maher has told on his last couple, well, it was 2 episodes ago. His last episode, he made reference to, he doesn't understand how the left just keeps on supporting the Palestinians. I'm paraphrasing here, okay? I'm not using his exact words, because he goes, I don't understand why they can't support a Israeli democracy. Bill, again, you kind of remind me of a typical, not Republican, but a typical politician who pivots, right, and deflects, right? This is not we know it's a thriving democracy. We get it. The people there, they vote, they eat, they drink, they walk the streets, they party, they go to the beach, they do everything Americans do, right? But again, supported by not only the United States, who just gave them $4 million and another $158 million for arms. Yeah, of course it's a thriving economy. Duh. Of course it is. But what does that have to, again, see, common sense, right? What does that have to do with the fact that the Palestinians have been oppressed for nearly 80 years? What does that have to do, Bill? Zero. That's what politicians do. They pivot and they deflect and they make you look the other way, right? They make you look the other way. But this guy pretty much backed up everything I said on my last podcast, but he nailed it in 20 different misrepresentations, lies, straw man arguments, the whole thing. I couldn't have said it any better. This guy is awesome. I'm going to give him a little plug. I'm also going to tag him on this one. But let me give you his name and where you can find him if you want to follow him on Instagram or Twitter. So his deal is IMEU. So it's the Institute for Middle East Understanding. Okay, and you can find him at the IMEU on Twitter or at Omar Bader. Okay, that's OMAR Bader. Omar Bader. He nailed it. I mean, he nailed every single thing that Bill Maher lied about, and he backed it up. Okay, he backed it up with just facts, right? And I backed it up with common sense. Okay, just anybody who says I support Israel, okay, great, yeah, all right, I support Israel too. Great country, great people. The Jewish people are awesome. But what about the government? Stop deflecting. We're talking about the Zionist terrorist organization of the Israeli government and their military that is making life miserable, has been making life miserable for nearly 8 decades with the Palestinian people, making their lives absolutely you can't let someone just text me today. Did you hear what the military did with the Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip? I said, of course I did. It happens every single day. Every single day. Not even day, night, 24/7. This if you listen to old Israeli soldiers and you listen to people who were once in charge of the government there, this is the way the Israeli government works. Their mission is to make their lives miserable every day, to quote unquote teach them a lesson or to keep them under control so they don't commit crimes. What? How? With what? I mean, so these are the poorest of the poor. But you ask somebody in this country, what do you know about? Nothing. You want to know why? Because the media, it's not going to tell you about it. They're just not going to tell you the truth about what's going on there. So, All right. This is a short but sweet podcast. We are going to fade into Mr. Omar Bader. And I love this clip. It's fantastic. And just a little lesson for Mr. Bill Maher. You absolutely can learn something from social media if people are smart enough to back it up, right? If they're smart enough to say, well, okay, let's see, is this really accurate? Is this really accurate? Is what he's saying really true? Okay, instead of just taking it. So everything he said here is true. I've known about it for decades because, like I said, I was born I married into a Palestinian family. And I knew the whole family of like 50, between the brothers and the sisters and the grandkids and the nieces and the nephews and etc. And many of them came here because they got kicked out of their home. My father-in-law had a bullet wound in his hand because the Israeli government was torturing them, okay, and chasing them out of their homes. They had no choice but to leave. Where are they going to go? Okay, so the oppressed became the oppressor. Bottom line. So I literally had a friend that said, F the Palestinians. Again, pure ignorance. Anyone who says that is listening to Fox News or a narrative that thinks that the Israeli government are the victims here. Okay? And they are clearly not the victims here. So, all right, let's fade into the clip. Check it out. And I'll see you when it's over. It's about 10 minutes long or so. And then we'll come back to it and wrap it up, talk about more what's going on with We Gotta Talk, Damn It, some upcoming episodes. And we're going to probably, after one more, get away from the political stuff and just have some healthy fun with dating. I want to talk about my Tesla. Is it the right car to drive? Or is it the right car to buy, I should say? Is it safe? Is the autonomous feature on there safe? The autopilot, is it safe? Is it a great car to purchase? We're going to talk about this stuff. We're going to talk about dating. Dating is something I consider myself, well, when it comes to dating sites, an expert. We'll talk about why the dating sites are not that great. We're going to talk about religion. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff. But we'll talk about that, what we're going to talk about, after Omar. All right, kids. See you in about 10 minutes. Let's go.
Bill Maher may have set the record for the greatest number of falsehoods or straw man arguments in the shortest conversation on Palestine and Israel. Here are 20 false or misleading claims he made last week in just a few minutes of talking about this.
I was watching this war go on in Israel.
Okay, first of all, this was not a war because only one side has an actual military with actual fighter jets and tanks. But even if you wanted to call it a war, it would not be a war in Israel because the overwhelming majority of the bombs were dropped on Gaza and the overwhelming majority of the dead were Palestinians in Gaza. And Gaza is occupied Palestinian territory that is not in Israel.
And it was frustrating to me because there was no one on liberal media to defend Israel, really.
All right, this one is so absurd, it really is hard to know how to respond. Yes, coverage was a little bit better this time. Instead of being uniformly pro-Israel, there was some recognition of Palestinian humanity, and there was some space for Palestinians to speak for themselves. But it was hardly the utopian coverage that Bill seems to be having nightmares about.
I'd also like to say off the bat that I don't think kids understand, when I say kids, I mean the younger generations, that you can't learn history from Instagram.
I mean, you can't learn all of the history on Instagram, but you can learn a hell of a lot more following informative accounts like the IMEU on Instagram than listening to uninformed people like Bill talk about this.
Well, Gaza fired 4,000 rockets into Israel. What would you say Israel should have done instead of what they did?
Are you leaving anything out here, Bill? I mean, was Israel minding its own business when rockets were suddenly fired out of nowhere? Or did it just skip your mind that Israel is suffocating millions of people in Gaza under siege and is carrying out ethnic cleansing in the West Bank?
I mean, what if Canada fired 4,000 rockets into America?
Again, is America occupying Canada and preventing Canadians from getting access to clean drinking water? Because if they were, then this would be an apt analogy, and we can talk about correcting America's behavior and then achieving peace through justice.
Or Mexico, which is an even better analogy because we actually did steal the land from Mexico. I would submit that Israel did not steal anybody's land.
This is the most ridiculous claim of them all. Israel was literally built on land theft and ethnic cleansing. To establish Israel, they destroyed more than 500 Palestinian towns and villages and drove out more than 750,000 Palestinians out of their homes.
This is another thing I've heard the last couple of weeks, words like occupiers and colonizers and apartheid, which I don't think people understand the history there.
At this point, Bill is like a falsehood machine. Of course, Israel is an occupier. It says it right there over and over in a mountain of UN resolutions and in the opinion of the International Court of Justice and in the reports of every major human rights organization in the world. And of course, Israel is a colonizer. They are literally building colonies on stolen Palestinian land to the condemnation of the entire world. And of course, Israel is an apartheid state. You can just read the details of that in this recent Human Rights Watch report detailing Israeli apartheid. Or you can just watch this clip.
מפה, מנון, רק יהודים. קפטן, הכניס.
The Jews have been in that area of the world since about 1200 BC, way before the first Muslim or Arab walked the earth.
Okay, now we're getting a little stupid, so let's clarify the issue. There are lots of civilizations that lived in Palestine, including the Canaanites and the Jews and the Persians and the Romans and the Byzantines and the Umayyads and the Crusaders and the Ottomans. There's no denying that there's a legitimate Jewish connection to the land of Palestine, in the same way that there's no denying that there is a Christian connection and a Muslim connection to the land. But in the same way that the Christian connection doesn't mean that the Vatican can come along and drive Palestinians out of their homes and claim the land, and in the same way that a Muslim connection to the land, which is a legitimate one also, doesn't mean that Saudi Arabia can come along and drive Palestinians out of their homes and claim the land. The legitimate Jewish connection doesn't mean that European Jewish settlers can come along and throw Palestinians out of their homes and ethnically cleanse them to create a Jewish state of Israel. That's what we're talking about here. This isn't about which religion came first. This is about whether the indigenous people of Palestine can be ethnically cleansed out of their homeland in order to create a Jewish state that denies the rights of non-Jewish inhabitants in the land.
There was never a country called Palestine that was a distinct Arab country.
It's really bizarre that you think this is relevant. Yes, Palestinians did not have a recognized independent state before the creation of Israel, and neither did the natives who lived in America before Columbus arrived. But that did not change the fact that they lived here and this was their land. The idea that it becomes okay to ethnically cleanse people out of their land that they've lived on for thousands of years simply because they did not have an independent state is just ridiculous.
The UN in 1947 said, okay, we're going to partition it. We have a map. I want to show it. People forget what the map looks like. This is what was on the table at the beginning. The green is the part that the Arab population would have gotten.
Once again, you're leaving out critical information, like the fact that Palestinians owned more than 90% of this land. And so, of course, they would reject a deal in which they would just have to give up half of their country. And of course, the other side would be eager to accept a deal in which they would gain a ton of land that they've never owned. As for the modern two-state solution, which has been around for nearly 30 years, in which Israel gets to keep nearly 80% of the land and leaving Palestinians with barely over 20%, it is Israel that rejected that deal and insisted on colonizing all of Palestine.
Hamas's charter says they just want to wipe out Israel. Their negotiating position is you all die.
I am certainly no fan or defender of Hamas, but the you all die claim is just made up. Their new 2017 charter is available for everyone to read. Also, if you're concerned about mass deaths, you may want to notice that it's actually the Israeli military that's responsible for the most killing of civilians here. And it's not even close. Back in 2014, they killed more than 550 Palestinian children in Gaza in the span of 6 weeks. Ever heard of the phrase, actions speak louder than words?
The two-state solution has been on the table a number of times. There could be an Arab capital in East Jerusalem now if Yasser Arafat had accepted that in 2003. He did not.
That's also not true. The capital offered to Arafat was Abu Dis, which is near Jerusalem, but not in Jerusalem.
I mean, they have rejected this and went to war time and time again.
You just don't know what you're talking about. Palestinians repeatedly said no to tiny and isolated and separated pieces of land that would not make for a viable Palestinian state. In fact, what Palestinians were being offered at the end of the so-called peace process was so ridiculous that even Israel's own foreign minister at the time said that had he been Palestinian, he would not have accepted it.
Camp David was not the missed opportunity for the Palestinians. And if I were a Palestinian, I would have rejected Camp David as well. This is something I put in the book.
And, as far as Gaza goes, it's amazing to me that the progressives think that they're being progressive by taking that side of it, the Bella Hadids of the world, these influencers. I just want to say, in February of this year, a Hamas court ruled that an unmarried woman cannot travel in Gaza without the permission of a male guardian.
This is yet another ridiculous straw man. No one is defending the regressive social and political attitudes of a Hamas-affiliated court. The Bella Hadids and the influencers are speaking out against Israel's killing of Palestinian civilians and children. And seriously, Bill, shame on you for covering for those killings by dragging in the extraneous and completely irrelevant issue of an indefensible court decision.
From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, is I think what she chanted with people. That is a PLO slogan that means Israel from the river to the sea, is that there will be no more Israel.
When the civil rights movement in America demanded freedom and equal rights, that was not a call to destroy America. It was a call to transform the country from an apartheid state into a country in which everybody's rights were respected equally. Likewise, the call for a free Palestine is not a call to destroy anything or anyone except the discriminatory apartheid regime that rules the land. It's a call for a more inclusive future in which every Israeli and every Palestinian can live together in freedom and equality.
That included the Arab Party.
Correct.
And once you're part of the government, if
Right.
they need your 3 votes in the Knesset to get to 61,
Which
you have real power.
no apartheid state ever did. What's it? An apartheid, we think of as South Africa.
מפה, מנון, רק יהודים.
The Israelis, they have made mistakes, but it's an apartheid state because they keep getting attacked.
Wait, Bill is trying to have it both ways here. Which is it? Is Israel not an apartheid state? Or is it an apartheid state because they keep getting attacked? You know, every apologist for a racist system has defended it by insisting that the oppressed had to be denied their rights because they are too wild or dangerous to enjoy equal rights. And this is fundamentally no different. It tells you everything you need to know about Bill's worldview and really that of the Israeli government, which is that they don't see Palestinians as equal human beings who are deserving of freedom and equality. And this is precisely why Israeli apartheid persists. And it's also precisely why this crisis will not end until Palestinian humanity is recognized.
All right. We are back. What do you think? I mean, did he nail it or what? I mean, he nailed it. He really, really nailed everything. And I think it's great. I think it's great that there are people out there like that, spreading the word. Everybody who is pro-Palestine, whether or not you come with, a laundry list of facts or whether or not you come to it with some common sense and a little bit of logic, whatever it is, because you can't. I mean, do you honestly need a bunch of facts to support the Palestinians? Do you? All you have to do is open your eyes, open your ears, look and see what's going on with them. And you have to ask yourself, why is this happening? They are defenseless. So you can't say F the Palestinians. Why? What are they doing that is so horrific to deserve to live in extreme? This is not just poverty. They got nothing. They work for peanuts. They don't have clean water. They hardly have any food. The Israeli government controls the food flow, the water flow, the electricity flow. They are badgered every single day, 24/7. How can you say, I support the Israelis? On what basis? What are the Palestinians doing to the Israelis to justify that? And someone's going to say, well, Hamas is blowing off rockets. Do you know what happened before they blew off rockets? Do you know what happened? We can go back 80 years if you want to know what happened. But let's just go back to Ramadan, when the Israeli government does this all the time. Raids mosque. In the middle of Ramadan, at the end of Ramadan, the celebration, they come in and they blow off stink bombs and rubber bullets in a mosque where people are praying and celebrating Ramadan. Then the bombs went off. I don't know. You got to ask yourself this question. Somebody come to me if they have evidence that Hamas out of nowhere started blowing off rockets. I can almost guarantee you it's based on retaliation. Now, how do I know that? Well, all you have to do is go back. Their land got taken away from, and their land got invaded. Okay? They were told they can no longer live here. And actually, they told, well, they can have this part. And then people say, well, Yasser Arafat should have taken the deal. And we're going to talk about why he didn't take the deal. Okay? But people don't understand why. Well, he should have taken the deal. He would have had his own land, blah, blah. No, it's not that easy. It's not that easy. So, again, Hamas is not a terrorist organization. They are freedom fighters. They supply food, education, clean water, obviously when they can, because the Israelis control everything. They control all the checkpoints. They control everything. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that clip. I hope that everybody out there opens their eyes a little bit more when it comes to what's going on over there and in the Middle East in general. I mean, it's all these terrorist groups, real terrorist groups, like the Taliban or ISIS. These were all created because of the United States invading. And, the Iraq War, ISIS never existed before George Bush decided to go into that country. If they did, nobody heard about it, but they certainly got stronger because when you start dropping bombs on families' homes, what do you expect? What do you expect? Okay? So anyway, that wraps it up. Got a lot of great stuff coming on. I got some people coming on who did something phenomenal for children with cancer. And I'm in the beginning stages of talking to them about what they did to make their lives happy and joyful while they're going through chemo. Some of these kids are young and they just, they need something to make themselves happy. And what these two folks did was great. Talking to them about getting them on. I hope that works out. I think it definitely will. I got a gentleman coming on who wants to still talk about the mask issue. I don't even know why that's even an issue anymore. If you've been vaccinated, you don't have to wear a mask, plain and simple. And then I got another gentleman coming on who is very, 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 very well educated when it comes to the Middle East and the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, in quotes again. And yeah, I think that's important to be educated on what's going on there. We're going to get into more detail on how Israel was founded, why it was established, why the deals that were being brokered were not fair, why the only president of the United States, Jimmy Carter, was the only outspoken president to support the Palestinians and was very critical of the Israeli government. Because he's a peacemaker. He is truly a humanitarian. I'm also going to do a podcast on Joe Biden, which I supported 100%, and I still do. I think he's doing a great job. However, is Joe Biden really a humanitarian? Is he really doing humanitarian work right now, or is it just politics as usual? You wait till you hear my logic on that one. You might find it extremely interesting. So, where do you find the Freddy Mak Show? You can find the Freddy Mak Show just about everywhere. It's on 9 different podcasts. It's on Apple iTunes. It's on Spotify and many, many other podcast platforms. All you have to do is Google We Gotta Talk Damn It. It's GOTTA. We Gotta Talk Damn It. Also, you can find me on Facebook. You can go to that's the old show. www.wegottotalkdammit. You can subscribe there as well to get emails on upcoming episodes and so forth. Also, you can go to YouTube channel. We Gotta Talk Damn It. Please subscribe, hit the notification button, and you'll also get notifications on upcoming episodes. So, all right, thank you very much. I hope this was informative. I hope you share this with people who, have that mentality after Palestinians. And what people don't realize, when they think of the Palestinians in the Middle East, they think that all those Palestinians are just Muslims. Sorry, Charlie. Those are Christians being brutalized. There are also Jews being brutalized in the Gaza Strip. So this is a cluster. It's a mess. And it's unfortunate that the people in the United States have literally been living in a bubble and have not been told the truth about what's going on over there. So anyway, all right, thanks again. Please check out all the platforms, subscribe, hit the notification button, follow on your favorite platform. Email me. You can email me at Freddy@wegottotalkdammit.com or wegottotalkdammit@gmail.com. All right, thanks again for joining. Peace out. And remember, we gotta talk, damn it.